Darwin, drone, is the capital city of the Northern Territory, Australia, with a 2019 estimated population of 147,255. It has more residents than the rest of the sparsely populated Northern Territory. It is the smallest, wettest, and most northerly of the Australian capital cities and serves as the top end's regional centre. Darwin's proximity to Southeast Asia makes it a link between Australia and countries such as Indonesia and East Timor. The Stuart Highway begins in Darwin, extends southerly across central Australia through Tennant Creek and Alice Springs, concluding in Port Augusta, South Australia. The city is built upon a low bluff overlooking the harbour. Its suburbs begin at Lee Point in the north and stretch to Berrima in the east past Berrima. The Stuart Highway goes on to Darwin's satellite city Palmerston and its suburbs. The Darwin region, like much of the top end, experiences a tropical climate with a wet and dry season, a period known locally as the build-up, leading up to Darwin's wet season sees temperature and humidity increase. Darwin's wet season typically arrives in late November to early December and brings with it heavy monsoonal downpours, spectacular lightning displays, and increased cyclone activity. During the dry season, the city has clear skies and mild sea breezes from the harbour. The Greater Darwin area is the ancestral home of the Larrakia people. On the 9th of September 1839, HMS Beagle sailed into Darwin Harbour during its survey of the area. John Clements Wickham named the region Port Darwin in honour of their former shipmate Charles Darwin, who had sailed with them on the ship's previous voyage, which ended in October 1836. The settlement there became the town of Palmerston in 1869. But it was renamed Darwin in 1911. The city has been almost entirely rebuilt 4 times, following devastation caused by the 1897 cyclone, the 1937 cyclone, Japanese air raids during World War II, and Cyclone Tracy in 1974. The Aboriginal people of the Larrakia language group are the traditional custodians and the first inhabitants of the Greater Darwin area. They had trading routes with Southeast Asia and imported goods from as far afield as South and Western Australia. Established song lines penetrated throughout the country, allowing stories and histories to be told and retold along the routes. The extent of shared song lines and history of multiple clan groups within this area is contestable. The Dutch visited Australia's northern coastline in the 1600s and landed on the Tiwi Islands only to be repelled by the Tiwi peoples. The Dutch created the first European maps of the area. This accounts for the Dutch names in the area, such as Arnhem Land and Groot Eland. The first British person to see Darwin Harbour appears to have been Lieutenant John Lord Stokes of HMS Beagle on the 9th of September 1839. The ship's captain, Commander John Clements Wickham, named the port after Charles Darwin, the British naturalist who had sailed with them both on the earlier second expedition of the Beagle. In 1863, the Northern Territory was transferred from New South Wales to South Australia. In 1864, South Australia sent B.T. Finnus north as government resident to survey and found a capital for its new territory. Finnus chose a site at Escape Cliffs, near the entrance to Adelaide River, about 60 kilometers northeast of the modern city. This attempt was short-lived, however, and the settlement abandoned by 1865. On the 5th of February 1869, George Goyder, the Surveyor General of South Australia, established a small settlement of 135 people at Port Darwin between Fort Hill and the escarpment. Goyder named the settlement Palmerston after the British Prime Minister Lord Palmerston. In 1870, the first poles for the overland telegraph were erected in Darwin, connecting Australia to the rest of the world. The discovery of gold by employees of the Australian Overland Telegraph Line digging holes for telegraph poles at Pine Creek in the 1880s spawned a gold rush, which further boosted the young colony's development. In February 1872, the brigantine Alexandra was the first private vessel to sail from an English port directly to Darwin, carrying people many of whom were coming to recent gold finds. In early 1875, Darwin's white population had grown to approximately 300 because of the gold rush. On the 17th of February 1875, the SS Gothenburg left Darwin en route for Adelaide. The approximately 88 passengers and 34 crew included government officials, circuit court judges, Darwin residents taking their first furlough, and miners. While traveling south along the North Queensland coast, the Gothenburg encountered a cyclone-strength storm and was wrecked on a section of the Great Barrier Reef. Only 22 men survived, while between 98 and 112 people perished. Many passengers who perished were Darwin residents, and news of the tragedy severely affected the small community, which reportedly took several years to recover. In the 1870s, relatively large New